Welcome everybody back to Boost in Motion, guys. And today we're going to talk about how to get 600 to 700 wheel horsepower on your VR30 Q50 Q60. Guys, let's go. Let's jump into it. First thing, shout out to my whole Boost in Motion family. You guys been really banging on me. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys could go take a look below in the bio, I'm going to put a link to my Boost in Foreigns channel. Yes, this is my secondary channel. If you really like to support this channel, hopefully you would like to support that channel. I put all my foreign content over there from the C63, E63, and even right now, my 7 series. Why do I have a 7 series? I don't freaking know. I'm getting older. But anyways, let's jump into it. So this video is going to be a continuation from the 4 to 500 wheel horsepower Q50, Q60 video, right? So I'm going to briefly say the prerequisites of why you need what you need from the 400, 500 horsepower setup, and now additionally what you need for the 600, 700 horsepower setup, all right? First thing is catback exhaust. You're going to need a 3-inch. In the old video, I say 2.5 could suffice on stock turbos. We're not really on stock turbos anymore. I mean, pures are, but we'll talk about that a little later. You're going to need a 3-inch cat exhaust. 3-inch catback exhaust. No, not an axle back, catback, all right? 2, you're going to need full downpipes, 3 inches. We're not doing 2.5-inch downpipes here. We're not. We can get with it on stock turbos, not these. We need 3-inch downpipes. In the old video, I said you can get with a Caddick downpipe. You can still keep a full Caddick downpipe, even though depending on the cell count, they might handle between 5 to 600 horsepower. I'm honestly gonna tell you guys, go with a full catalyst system. You're getting the most amount of peak and the quickest spool. That's what you want. Period. Okay. Now we can move to the intake side. On the old setup, you can use the stock air intake systems. On the new setup, because you're going to deal with turbines spinning pretty quick, trying to spool them up as fast as they can, we don't want any reduction in the vacuum being created in the intake system. Some tuners will sit there and say it's not a problem. Some sit there and will say, yeah, go with larger intake systems. I would recommend go with a larger intake system. Cool. We took care of the breath. Now let's talk about the cooling, right? So he upgraded heat exchanger. You're going to need that. That's it. Pick and choose whatever color you want. I mean, black or silver, whatever. Go with the largest capacity that can fit your pocket. Boom. You're going to need that. And from then on, there wasn't much other prerequisites that I included from the 4 to 500 wheel horsepower category. Cool. So now we're going to talk about the new parts. These parts are also going to apply to the 700 wheel horsepower one regardless. Okay? First thing. Ooh. Oh yeah. Also, so I got the other prerequisites. High pressure fuel pump and low pressure fuel pump was also included in the 500 wheel horsepower, because if you want to run full E85, you're gonna need to do so. Now, you can go with an intake AMS, a low pressure fuel pump, or any other company that makes a high pressure fuel pump. But I have to give a caveat here, because you're gonna be running more horsepower, right? Some of the base or introductory level fuel pumps will not suffice, depending on how much torque is going to be applied or how much horsepower. So to get a fuel pump that's going to give you enough fuel for both, I'm going to recommend going with the biggest bore fuel pumps that's made for different, depending on the different companies. They're very similar, AMS, Full Performance, or even IDX, I forgot the company, right? Go with the largest fuel pumps that they make currently on the market. The reason being is they're going to give you enough fuel pressure for you to deliver the amount of fuel at this higher amount of torque and or horsepower. Period. This applies to pure turbos and Z1 turbos. We'll get to that a little bit later about the turbos. 2, low pressure fuel pump. As I said, you could have just called it a day and stay with an AMS low pressure fuel pump or any $200 one. I'm going to recommend going up to a higher stage. Yes, you have Spool and I think one other company that make dual pump setups for your in-tank fuel pump. They're more on the pricier side, but AMS has recently released their upgraded low pressure fuel pump, which is a dual and or single kit with a basket. I'm not going to lie. Knowing that if you're going to go with a dual pump setup from any other company, it's very similar to the price of what AMS is releasing. So I'm actually going to recommend, if you have the low pressure fuel pump ready, you're going to have to sell that and upgrade the basket size low pressure fuel pump that goes in the tank. Going to be a little pricey, but I recommend it. And AMS makes some great products. So I'm definitely going to recommend that. Also, I already said I should have added this prerequisite. I'm sorry. Flex fuel kit and a flexo kit and ethanol analyzer. The reason being is this was prerequisite. The reason being is for you to make 600 to 700 horsepower, you're gonna have to run fully 85. I should have said that at the start. I apologize. You have to run fully 85. You're not gonna be making 700 horsepower on 93. It's just not possible. It's not a thing for the Purers or the Z1 turbos. Not a thing. Not saying that you can't push maybe higher 500s or lower 600s, but on the Z1 Motorsports turbos, it's just that most people who get these turbos are doing full 85. Haven't really seen how far the Z1s and or the Pures may run or where they should safely run on 93. All right? Cool. So you're going to need the ethanol to see how much amount of percentage of ethanol or E85 gas you're running, E30, 50, 70, whatever. We're going to need to know that. And so that the car can be tuned for the different maps based on percentages. Right. Now, we got the ethanol, we got the exhaust, the intakes, the cooling. I'm going to add some additional cooling modifications here. I think at this point, you should look into upgrading. Some people will sit there and say they'd rather switch this one thing, switch the other thing. I'm going to sit there and say you should add the fender tank. You should absolutely add the AMS fender tank, and I believe Zero Motorsports make their own fender tank. This adds a huge more amount of coolant to the system, a massive amount. Compared to, let's say, like the regular reservoir ones, whatever, which basically gives you anything. I would recommend adding that. And if you're not a red sport or a 3.0 T sport with a secondary water pump, add the secondary water pump if you don't have that already. I would recommend that because you're going to keep the pressure up and that coolant flowing around the air to water in the coolers. And there's so much massive amount of coolant that it adds in there, you'll be a lot more resistant to heat soak over time, right? So period. Now, I'm going to talk about the honorable mentions a little bit later. Now that we knocked off the cooling, yeah, I know you guys don't like that. There's more cooling modifications. We're going to actually now sit there and make it simple. What about the turbos? Yeah. We did all this cooling. We did all this exhaust and intake. What about the turbos themselves? Yes, you want to like to go with a pure turbo, which could give you, on average, 600 horsepower. You can push a little harder for the 650, but you can safely say that pure turbos is always going to deliver 600 horsepower, call it a day, on the 85 and those modifications I listed earlier. Period. That's it. Then, if you want to make 700 horsepower, you're going to have to go with, guess what? Boom. Z1 Motorsports upgraded turbos. That's going to give you 700 horsepower. This is all on stock block, stock training. Period. That's it. Check mark. Are we over with this conversation? No. There's still more. Now, from what tuners have said it on this channel, on pure turbos, you can actually still run stock injectors. Yeah, you can still rock stock injectors. But there are upgraded injectors that I will recommend that you choose to switch out to. Because with the added amount of power, you're going to need added amount of fuel. And the stock injectors just are not as reliable over time for the amount of fluid, so you want to change those out. Now, when you're changing out the injectors, oh God, there's so much more prerequisites. If you change those injectors, it's recommended based on AMS because people have injector failures over time. Because those old rails are old and ethanol breaks down the metal for some reason in it. It's recommended you change out to OEM fuel rails and fuel pressure sensor that's on the rail. Yes, those two things you got to buy. OEM fuel rails and the OEM fuel pressure sensor. For whatever reason, the old rails break down or maybe contaminants when installed in a high-pressure fuel pump, and material could get into the injector and fail. So why would you want to change the injectors knowing that the inside of the rail may be broken down because of the ethanol and the fuel pressure sensor may fail, which cause other issues that you're chasing down the line? So you might as well just change that out one time because at least you know that's taken care of and you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Now, we took care of fueling. We took care of cooling. We took care of exhaust, and we have the turbos in. Well, guess what? You need a tune. That's it. And there's plenty of tuners in this community that are great. Racebox, Sonic Tune, AMS, Z1 Motorsports. They're the ones who made the turbos. And you get tuned on E85 on different maps. And then you send the car. Yeah, you send the car. That's it. It seems that on average, consistently, you're going to get 600 wheel on pure turbos. That is going to give you a car that's trapping above 130 to 135 miles an hour at the track, and you're going to be like a mid 10-second car. About mid 10-second car. maybe low 10-second car with a higher trap speed. And that's pretty much it. The Z1 turbos, the power seems like it's a little bit more linear. So they're gonna give Z1 Motorsports turbos are gonna give you I've been seeing close to almost 140 miles an hour trap speed. So you have a faster trap speed, and I'm seeing some good 60 foots, very similar to Pures. It's just that people seem like they haven't been pushing it hard enough yet because the Z1 Motorsports still seems like they need better fueling, and or maybe you need a better fuel pump, and or they may need better transmission and a couple of maybe a motor build. Reason being is the Z1 Motorsports turbos could give you 800 wheel horsepower. Definitely possible. It's that turbo that's gonna go right between the Pures and the AMS turbos, which we didn't include yet in this video. Or I'm gonna make a separate video on it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna include it in this video because I'm not gonna speak about it too much. So you're holding back the torque because you don't want to affect the engine on lower RPM because that added torque could bend a rod or spin a bearing. So the Z1 turbos, people tune them to be more linear. So you're making most of your power mid-range and up. That's it. But you can get them to spool pretty quick. Not as fast as a Pure, but you get them to spool pretty quick on a lower end. They're larger turbos. They have a larger wastegate system, so it's a OEM plus turbo pretty much. I would say it's OEM. It's just better, and it's ball bearing, so it should last longer too. Now, I'm gonna leave my recommendations on what you should choose, but I do want to add the last turbo. I would say AMS turbos. AMS supposed to have 1,000 horsepower compatible turbos. I haven't seen them come out yet. I'm guessing they waiting to see what happens on a couple of owners' cars. That's gonna get done. We're trying to wait and see what happens with their cars. But yeah, we're gonna see MS 1,000 horsepower turbos come out soon. Just under when those turbos come out, everything that AMS has already made for high horsepower cars for Q50s is gonna be thrown in that car. So anything that's a prerequisite that we talked about at the max is gonna be needed for 1,000 horsepower build, and it ain't gonna be on stock motor. It ain't gonna be on stock transmission. Transmission needs to get built to handle more torque, and motor needs to be built so it can handle more torque to the rods and bearings. Period. Might need to make a semi or closed deck VR30 program. Period. That's it. So now I want to give a couple honorable mentions here that I did not and/or recommendations that I did not include. All right. So with the 600 horsepower package, right? I would recommend you can also choose to go with. Some people may choose to do so. You can go with upgraded air to water intercoolers. Yes. AMS and Mishimoto make their own upgraded air-to-water intercoolers. I believe the Mishimoto is single pass, which is kind of corny, very similar to OEM, and I believe AMS is triple pass. If I can't remember off the top of my head, the AMS unit should be better for cooling, absolutely over the Mishimoto, but it's just it doesn't add that much more coolant to the system for the price in return. That's why I would sit there and tell you to get the fender tank because you're adding more coolant to the system with the extra pump. That is much better than going with the upgraded air-to-water intercoolers. That's just my opinion. There's not much coolant added. It is what it is. But if you want to, you can add that. Another thing I would sit there and say is air to air. Yes, air to air. As I included in the first 400 to 500 horsepower series, you can choose to go air to air. Once again, this is not a big thing in the Q50, Q60 community, but you can go to an air to air system where you remove the coolant system completely. Don't spend $600, $700 on this stuff. Just remove all that extra weight and go to an air to air system, something that's like what's on a GTR. And from what it has been proving in this community on upgraded turbos and stock turbos, you're going to see on average 20 to 30, maybe even close to 40 wheel horsepower gain on with the air-to-air setup, and it's a lot less prone to heat soak because it uses the ambient air to cool off. But remember, you're going with higher wheel horsepower here now, which means higher boost pressures, which means you're gonna need a very huge intercooler that's efficient. Depends on if it's a bar and fin. I forgot the typical how to speak because there's two different type of style of air-to-air intercoolers, but you can look that up if you choose to, but you're going to need a intercooler that either is two separate or is one core but it's two separate, or one that can handle, I hate to say it, 1,000 to 1,200 horsepower of air. So that's something if you want to choose to do. I've seen a couple people use it in this community, but it's just not enough information to see how good they are. on a Z1 turbo car. Seen them on pures and they do quite well, just as good if they were on stock turbos. Other recommendations for the Z1 Motorsports, I would say, yeah, you gotta just go with the best fuel system for it. You have to go with these. You have to spend the money on the best fuel system. I would say with the Z1 Motorsports, you would you would want to start. I can't even say what I was gonna say because I would say start building a transmission. Um, but then I don't want to say that because most tuners are tuning it to not add too much torque for these specific turbos. So I'm not even gonna use that. I would say I will leave it there. That's it. I will leave it there. Those are the additional things that I would say I would leave it right there. There's nothing else additional. Like you can add other things to this tuning. I mean, to parts or whatever, mismatch things. But honestly, in this video, that's the recommendation I give you guys. And to be honest, it's kind of expensive. It's kind of expensive. If it was up to me, and I'm gonna end it off after my opinion. If it was up to me, I would see that the Z1 Motorsports will be better. Reason being is there's no more core charge. You can buy the turbos as is and have them delivered to you, and they'll bolt up just like OEM. The pure turbos, you have to buy them, and then they'll have a core charge. So you're spending about the same amount of money and you're gonna spend about the same amount of money for the pures, and you have to send them back to get your money back. So it's still about the same amount of money when you could just, I hate to say it like this, but buy the Z1s and then keep the stock ones and either sell those or rebuild them for the future. You know what I'm saying? If you want to take off the Z1s and sell it to somebody else, they're still going to, even Z1s on the used market, if someone sells it, if you're selling something, they can still sell them for like $2,000. You can still get some money back or 2,500. You know what I'm saying? And they're ball bearings, so they should last quite a long time compared to the OEM style, which is pretty much not ball bearing at all. They don't last that long. They will break down over time. So it is recommended. Yeah, that's what I pretty much would leave it at that when it comes to the turbos themselves. I think that's about it. I want to say some other stuff. Screw it. I'm gonna say it. I would also recommend staying away from one-off turbo kit systems. Yes. I've talked about different turbo kit systems from different companies, outside of the ones listed. Over time, and it was nice that was an options. But from when you're going with these different turbo systems from that are more hand built, not saying that they didn't put enough R&D, but hand built, it kind of you run into issues. You run into issues, and not every kit will be the same. So I would recommend staying away from these one-off built turbo kit systems, because it's just the OEM way of doing things is working quite well. Not saying that a company may not come up with a single turbo kit system or something down the line. They'll be like, wow, it's a lot of power, but there's a lot of tuning that goes into it and learning how the system works. That's usually not the best way, but some people tune it to try their best. You just have more mistakes and issues that will pop up dealing with a one-off built turbo kit system than dealing with one that's designed to be OEM, such as Z1 Motorsports. Pretty much. All right. So pretty much this will end the series on from 400 to 500 to 600 to 700 to even, I hate to say 800 because Z1 Motorsports turbos can hit 800 to 1,000 horsepower. That's it. So I would say now at this current moment, 700 wheel horsepower is pretty common for the VR30 Q50 Q60. These same turbos could be used in the Z1, the Nissan Z. Those cars are going to trap even higher mile an hour because they're smaller and they have a different transmission. So that car still hasn't got to its limits yet based on the transmission and its speed. So there's a lot more. Shout out to Sonic Tune. We're going to see where these cars really go. But nonetheless, it's good to see that we finally have even more market and more support for the Q50, Q60 platform. There are the turbo kits out there that I'm not going to recommend in this video because either they're just not going to, they're not very OEM style, or they're just not yielding any additional performance gains from it. They're just more one-off systems, even if they are from a reputable company. If you want to buy that, it's just because you want the name, not you don't want so much the OEMness of it. Anyways, so outside of that, guys, you have good morning, good afternoon, good night. Thank you guys for hanging out and listening to me talk. I know you guys hate me talking, but it's been a minute, and I really love y'all. You can add me at boostinmotion on IG. All right, so you guys have a good day. I appreciate it. Thank you.